The clock on the wall of the grand hallway struck 11 at night. The Westbrook Academy of Music had finally fallen silent after a long day of melodies, harmonies, and the constant flow of talented young musicians. Only the soft shuffling of Ana Mendez's worn sneakers echoed through the marble corridors as she pushed her cleaning cart forward. Ana was 42 years old. Though the lines around her eyes made her look older, her dark hair was always pulled back in a practical bun, and her uniform, a simple gray dress with the Academy's logo, hung loosely on her thin frame. For 5 years she had cleaned these halls, polished these floors, and emptied these trash cans, all while remaining almost completely unseen. "Excuse me," a voice called out, startling her. Ana looked up to see Professor Daniels, the piano instructor, rushing past with a stack of sheet music. He didn't wait for her response or even glance in her direction. Why would he? Ana was part of the furniture to people like him, necessary but unremarkable. She continued her path down the east wing, where practice rooms lined both sides of the hallway. Most doors were closed for the night, but light spilled from beneath one. Ana paused, drawn by the faint sound of a cello. The rich, deep notes pulled at something inside her chest, a feeling she had learned to keep buried. Ana stood still, eyes closed, letting the music wash over her. The cellist was practicing Bach's Suite No. 1 in G major. Ana knew this not because she had studied music, but because she had cleaned these rooms for years, absorbing the conversations of instructors and students alike. She had developed an ear for the pieces they played, though she would never admit to knowing their names if asked. The music stopped abruptly. Ana quickly resumed pushing her cart, not wanting to be caught listening. The door opened and out stepped Lily Chen, a first-year student with extraordinary talent. The girl walked past Ana without acknowledgement, her mind clearly occupied with musical problems Ana could never understand. "That's okay," Ana whispered to herself once the student disappeared down the stairwell. "Everyone has their place." Ana's place was in the shadows of greatness. The Academy housed some of the most promising young musicians in the country. Students who would go on to play in world-famous orchestras, who would compose pieces that would move hearts, who would become the artistic elite. Ana was simply there to ensure their environment remained clean and orderly. 2 hours later, Ana had finished the east wing and moved to the west. This part of the building housed the administrative offices and the large rehearsal spaces. It was in the largest of these spaces, Rehearsal Hall C, that Ana allowed herself a small indulgence each night. She glanced around, making sure no one was nearby. The security guard, Mr. Patel, was usually doing his rounds on the other side of the building at this hour. Satisfied she was alone, Ana pushed her cart into the vast room. The rehearsal hall was impressive, with high ceilings, perfect acoustics, and a gleaming grand piano in the corner. Ana set down her cleaning supplies and walked to the center of the room, where the conductor would stand during orchestra practices. She closed her eyes, imagining the space filled with musicians, their instruments poised and ready. Then very softly, Ana began to hum. It was an old song her grandmother had taught her, a folk melody from the small village in Mexico where Ana had spent her early childhood. The tune was simple but beautiful, speaking of mountains and rivers and a love that endures. As the melody filled the empty space around her, Ana's shoulders relaxed, and for just a moment, the worry lines on her face smoothed away. She had been told once, long ago, that she had a voice worth training. A middle school music teacher had pulled her aside after hearing her sing in the school choir. "You have a gift," the teacher had said with excitement in her eyes. "We should talk to your parents about private lessons." But Ana's father had laughed when she told him. "Singing doesn't put food on the table," he had said. "Focus on your studies so you can get a real job." And that had been that. The dream, barely formed, had been tucked away. Life had carried on. Ana had finished school, started working, met a man, married him, and then watched him leave when times got tough. She had taken care of her parents as they aged, and now, with her father gone and her mother needing expensive medication for her heart condition, Ana cleaned the halls of Westbrook Academy 6 nights a week. The song ended, and Ana opened her eyes, returning to reality. She picked up her dust cloth and moved to the piano. She never touched the keys. That would be crossing a line. But she took special care in polishing the beautiful instrument, removing every fingerprint from its shiny surface. Mama would have loved to hear the music they make here. Anna murmured as she worked. Her mother had once loved to sing around the house before illness had made her too weak and before financial worries had stolen her joy. Anna finished cleaning the rehearsal hall and continued with her rounds. By 3 in the morning, she had completed her shift. She gathered her belongings from the small locker room shared by the maintenance staff and headed out into the cool night air. The bus stop was empty at this hour. Anna wrapped her worn jacket tighter around herself as she waited. 20 minutes later, she was on the nearly empty bus, heading toward the outskirts of the city where rent was cheap enough for someone on her salary. The apartment building was old and in need of repairs, but it was clean. Anna had made sure of that, organizing the other residents to maintain the common areas when the landlord neglected them. She climbed 4 flights of stairs because the elevator had been broken for months, then quietly unlocked the door to apartment 4C. Inside, a small lamp cast a warm glow over the living room, which doubled as Anna's bedroom at night. The fold-out couch was still in its daytime position, and sitting in the armchair beside it was Rosa, their elderly neighbor from across the hall. "How is she?" Anna asked softly, setting down her bag. Rosa stood up slowly, her joints stiff from sitting too long. She had a good day, ate all her dinner and took her medicine without complaining. She's been asleep for about 3 hours now. Anna nodded gratefully. "Thank you, Rosa. I don't know what I'd do without you." "It's nothing," Rosa patted Anna's arm. "You'd do the same for me." She gathered her knitting and shuffled toward the door. "There's some stew left in the pot. Eat something before you sleep." After Rosa left, Anna tiptoed to the bedroom door and peeked inside. On the bed lay her mother, Carmen, her breathing shallow but steady. The oxygen tank beside the bed hummed quietly, its tubes connecting to Carmen's nostrils. Anna watched her mother's chest rise and fall for a moment, reassuring herself that all was well, before quietly closing the door again. In the kitchen, Anna served herself a small bowl of Rosa's beef stew and ate it standing up, too tired to sit. The food was good, warm, and filling, but Anna barely tasted it. Her mind was already planning the morning ahead, giving her mother breakfast, helping her bathe, making sure she took her medication, then catching a few hours of sleep before her second job at the corner store started at noon. When she finished eating, Anna washed her bowl and spoon, then prepared the couch for sleeping. As she pulled out the bed, a piece of paper fluttered to the floor, a flyer for the upcoming spring showcase at the academy. She had found it while emptying a trash can and had kept it, though she wasn't sure why. "The Westbrook Academy of Music proudly presents our annual spring showcase," it read, "featuring performances by our most talented students and faculty." Anna ran her fingers over the elegant script, imagining the music that would fill the concert hall that night. She would be there, of course, but not as an audience member. She would be in the background, making sure everything was spotless, that no trash marred the elegant venue, that the bathrooms were stocked and clean for the wealthy patrons who would attend. She folded the flyer carefully and placed it in her bedside drawer, next to the only photograph she had of her grandmother, the woman who had first taught her to sing. As Anna prepared for bed, she hummed that same folk song again, even more softly now to avoid waking her mother. The melody was a comfort, a connection to something beyond the endless cycle of work and worry that defined her days. Tomorrow would be the same as today. She would remain invisible to the musicians whose spaces she cleaned, to the professors whose offices she dusted, to the students whose talents were being nurtured while hers had withered from neglect. But for now, in these quiet moments before sleep claimed her, Anna allowed herself to remember that somewhere deep inside her was a voice that, in another life, might have been worth hearing. She switched off the lamp and lay down, pulling the thin blanket over her tired body. As sleep began to claim her, Anna's last thought was of music, not the classical pieces that filled the academy, but the simple, soulful melodies of her childhood. In her dreams, at least, Ana Mendez was not invisible. In her dreams, she sang, and everyone stopped to listen. 2 weeks had passed since the spring showcase announcement, and the Westbrook Academy of Music was buzzing with nervous energy. End-of-semester recitals were approaching, which meant late-night practice sessions, frayed nerves, and the desperate scramble of students trying to perfect their performances. For Anna, it meant longer cleaning shifts. The practice rooms were in constant use until the building officially closed at 10, which pushed back her entire schedule. Tonight was particularly chaotic because the third-year students had organized an informal gathering in the student lounge, a tradition before finals week where they blew off steam and celebrated surviving another semester. Anna pushed her cart past the lounge, the sound of laughter and music spilling into the hallway. She tried to make herself even more invisible than usual. Students in groups always made her uncomfortable, not because they were unkind, but because their collective blindness to her presence somehow felt more deliberate than when they passed her individually in the halls. "I'll come back for this area later," she murmured to herself, turning her cart around. But as she did, the door to the lounge swung open wider and a tall young man stepped out, nearly colliding with her. "Whoa," he said, stepping back unsteadily. It was Victor Harrington, one of the most talented vocal performance students at the academy. He was also known for his arrogance, his family's wealth, and the way professors seemed to overlook his behavior because of his exceptional tenor voice. Tonight, his eyes were glassy and the smell of alcohol clung to him. Anna lowered her gaze. "Excuse me," she said quietly, trying to maneuver her cart around him. Victor looked at her as if truly seeing a cleaning person for the first time. His surprise quickly morphed into a mischievous grin. "Hey guys," he called back into the room. "Come check this out." Anna's stomach tightened. She tried again to move past, but Victor blocked her path with his arm. "No, wait. Don't go yet. What's your name?" "Anna," she replied reluctantly. "Please, I have a lot of work to—" "Anna," Victor repeated, drawing out the two syllables mockingly. "Do you like music, Anna?" By now, several other students had appeared in the doorway, curious about Victor's discovery. Anna recognized most of them. The violinist who always left sheet music scattered across the floor, the cellist who practiced late into the night, the pianist who actually smiled at her occasionally. "I should get back to work." Anna tried again, her voice barely audible. No, Victor insisted, the alcohol making him bolder. "You work in a music academy. I bet you've picked up a thing or two, haven't you? Do you sing in the shower, Anna? Hum while you mop." A few of the students laughed, but others looked uncomfortable. One girl with short dark hair, Zoe, Anna thought her name was, stepped forward. "Victor, leave her alone. She's just trying to do her job." Victor waved Zoe off. "I'm just being friendly." "Come on, Anna, you must have a favorite song." Anna stared at the floor, wishing she could disappear. Her entire life had been built around not being noticed, not drawing attention. Now she stood trapped in the spotlight of this young man's cruel amusement. "You know what?" Victor suddenly declared, his face lighting up with what he clearly thought was a brilliant idea. "We should invite Anna to our party. Everyone's performed tonight except her." "Victor," Zoe warned again. But Victor was already reaching for Anna's arm. "Come on, just for a few minutes. We're celebrating. Don't you want to celebrate with the future stars of the music world?" Before she could protest further, Anna found herself being pulled into the student lounge. The large room had been transformed for the party. Furniture had been pushed to the sides, twinkling string lights hung from the ceiling, and a small makeshift stage area had been set up at one end with microphones and speakers, likely borrowed from one of the rehearsal rooms. About 20 students were scattered throughout the space, some sitting on couches, others standing in small groups with plastic cups in hand. The music playing from someone's portable speaker went silent as Victor led Anna to the center of the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced with an exaggerated bow, "I present to you the hidden talent of Westbrook Academy, Anna, who keeps our hallways clean and our trash cans empty." Anna's face burned with humiliation. She looked around desperately for an escape route, but the students had formed a loose circle around her and Victor. Some looked amused, others uncomfortable, a few openly disapproving of Victor's behavior. "Victor, this isn't funny," said a tall boy with glasses who Anna recognized as the student body president. "Oh, lighten up, Nathan," Victor replied. "We're just having fun. And I bet Anna has a lovely singing voice." "Don't you, Anna?" Anna's throat felt tight with panic. The room seemed to spin slightly as memories rushed back. Her father's dismissive laughter when she'd mentioned singing lessons. Her ex-husband's mocking when he'd caught her singing lullabies to herself. The years of burying her voice so deeply she sometimes forgot it was there. "I don't sing," she managed to say, the words barely audible. "Everyone sings," Victor insisted. He grabbed one of the microphones from the makeshift stage and held it out to her. "Just one song for us. Consider it part of your job description tonight." Anna looked at the microphone as if it might bite her. Please, she whispered. I need this job. A flash of something, perhaps a moment of clarity or even shame, crossed Victor's face, but it quickly disappeared. No one's threatening your job, he said, his voice taking on a harder edge. We just want a little entertainment. Is that too much to ask after all the messes of ours you've cleaned up? The room had grown uncomfortably quiet. Even those who had been amused initially now seemed to sense that Victor had crossed a line. But no one intervened. No one spoke up loudly enough to end the spectacle. Anna looked at the faces surrounding her. Young people with bright futures, with talents that had been nurtured and celebrated. People who had never known what it was like to silence their own gifts because survival came first. People who had never been invisible. Something shifted inside her. Not anger exactly, but a quiet determination not to be crushed by this moment. If humiliation was inevitable, perhaps she could face it on her own terms. With trembling hands, Anna reached out and took the microphone. Victor looked triumphant. That's the spirit. What will you sing for us, Anna? A little folk song? Some pop tune from the radio? Anna didn't answer him. Instead, she closed her eyes, trying to calm her racing heart. The microphone felt heavy and foreign in her hand. She hadn't sung in front of anyone since the school choir more than 25 years ago. I'm waiting, Victor sing-songed, drawing a few nervous laughs from the crowd. Anna opened her eyes and looked directly at him. My grandmother taught me a song, she said softly. From our village in Mexico. Victor's smile faltered slightly at her direct gaze, but he recovered quickly. Perfect. Let's hear this village song then. Anna took a deep breath. The room around her seemed to fade as she brought to mind her grandmother's face, the way the old woman's eyes would crinkle when she sang, how her voice would rise and fall like the hills surrounding their village. The song was about love and loss, about finding strength in the darkest moments. It had carried her grandmother through war, through poverty, through the death of children. Perhaps it could carry Anna through this moment too. She raised the microphone closer to her lips, her hand still shaking slightly. The first note emerged tentatively, so quiet that the students leaned forward to hear. A smirk started to form on Victor's face. Exactly what Anna had feared. Confirmation that this was all just an elaborate setup to mock her. A few students shifted uncomfortably, perhaps already imagining how they would describe this cruel scene to their friends tomorrow. But Anna kept singing. The second note was stronger than the first. By the third, her voice had found its footing. The simple melody filled the room as Anna's eyes drifted closed again, the music transporting her away from the student lounge, away from the judgmental gazes and Victor's smirk. In her mind, she was back in her grandmother's kitchen, the smell of fresh tortillas filling the air, the sound of children playing outside. The song flowed through her, no longer constrained by fear or doubt. When Anna reached the chorus, her voice suddenly soared, revealing a depth and power that had been hidden for decades. The rich, clear notes resonated through the lounge, bouncing off the high ceiling and washing over the now silent students. Anna didn't see the shock that spread across Victor's face, didn't notice how his smirk dissolved into disbelief. She didn't see Zoe's mouth fall open or Nathan remove his glasses to wipe them, as if the lenses were somehow responsible for what he was hearing. Anna simply sang, her eyes still closed, her body swaying slightly with the emotion of the song. In this moment, she wasn't the invisible cleaning woman. She wasn't the struggling single daughter with a sick mother. She was simply a vessel for music that had waited too long to be heard. The melody poured from Anna like water breaking through a dam long forgotten. Each note grew stronger than the last, her voice finding its natural power after years of forced silence. The Spanish lyric spoke of mountains and resilience, of beauty hidden in ordinary places. Words her grandmother had sung while cooking, while washing clothes, while teaching Anna that music lived in the most humble corners of life. Victor's smugness had evaporated entirely. He stood frozen, his mouth slightly open, the cruel joke he'd orchestrated transforming before his eyes into something entirely unexpected. Around him, the other students had gone completely still, drinks forgotten in their hands, conversations abandoned mid-sentence. As Anna's voice filled the room with the chorus, a soaring emotional plea for strength in hard times, Zoe grabbed her friend's arm and whispered, "Is this for real?" No one answered her. No one could tear their attention away from the cleaning woman who had suddenly, impossibly, become the most commanding presence any of them had ever witnessed. Anna's eyes remained closed as she sang, her body swaying gently with the rhythm of the song. She had forgotten where she was, forgotten the humiliation that had brought her to this moment. There was only the music now, music that connected her to her past, to her grandmother's village in the mountains of Mexico, to a part of herself she had buried so deeply she'd almost believed it never existed. The song built toward its final verse, Anna's voice becoming richer, more nuanced with each phrase. She hit notes that professional sopranos would envy, with a raw emotional quality that no amount of technical training could produce. This was a voice shaped by life, by struggles and sacrifices, by dreams deferred, by a quiet dignity maintained through years of being overlooked. When Anna sang the final note, holding it with perfect control as it faded into silence, the room remained absolutely still. For 3 heartbeats, no one moved. No one breathed. It was as if time itself had been suspended by the unexpected beauty they had just witnessed. Then Anna opened her eyes. The reality of where she was and what she had just done came rushing back. She stood in the center of a circle of students who were staring at her with expressions ranging from shock to awe to something that looked almost like shame. The microphone in her hand suddenly felt heavy again. Her moment of transcendence was over. Victor was the first to break the silence. The arrogant smile was gone from his face, replaced by a look of genuine bewilderment. "How?" he began, then stopped, seemingly unable to form a coherent thought. Anna lowered the microphone, her gaze dropping to the floor. She wanted to run, to disappear back into the invisibility she had cultivated for so long, but her feet wouldn't move. It was Zoe who stepped forward, her eyes wide with wonder. "Anna," she said softly, "that was... I've never heard anything like that before. Ever." Anna shook her head, slightly uncomfortable with the attention. "It's just an old song," she murmured. "No," Nathan said, stepping forward to stand beside Zoe. "It's not just an old song. You have a gift, a real gift." Around them, other students began to murmur in agreement. The atmosphere in the room had transformed completely. The mockery had vanished, replaced by a collective sense of witnessing something extraordinary, and a growing awareness of how close they had come to missing it entirely. "Where did you learn to sing like that?" asked a girl with long braids who played the flute in the academy orchestra. Anna glanced up briefly. "I didn't learn," she said. "I just always could." "But you've had training, right?" pressed another student. "You must have studied somewhere." Anna shook her head again. No training." This revelation seemed to shock the students even more than the performance itself. They exchanged glances, professional musicians in training who had spent years honing their craft, suddenly confronted with raw, natural talent that surpassed what many of them might achieve in a lifetime of study. "That's not possible," Victor said, finding his voice at last. But the dismissive tone he'd used earlier was gone, replaced by genuine disbelief. "No one sings like that without training." Anna finally looked directly at him, her dark eyes steady. "I clean your practice rooms every night," she said quietly. "I listen. I've been listening for 5 years." The simple statement hung in the air, a gentle rebuke that landed more effectively than any angry response could have. Several students looked away, suddenly aware of how they had treated the woman who had moved silently through their spaces, picking up after them, witnessing their frustrations and triumphs while remaining completely unseen. Professor Rivera chose that moment to walk into the lounge. The vocal instructor had heard the commotion from her office where she'd been working late and had come to investigate. "What's going on in here?" she asked, her sharp eyes taking in the unusual scene. The cleaning woman standing in the center of a circle of uncharacteristically quiet students. No one spoke for a moment. Then Nathan stepped forward. "Professor, you need to hear Anna sing." Rivera raised an eyebrow, looking skeptical. She knew Anna vaguely, had passed her in the hallways, had nodded politely when Anna emptied the trash in her office, but had never given her much thought. "Sing, please," Zoe added. "Just one song." Anna shook her head, suddenly terrified. Singing for a group of students was one thing. Performing for Professor Rivera, whose standards were legendary and whose criticism had reduced even the most talented students to tears, was quite another. "I should get back to work," Anna said, trying to hand the microphone to Nathan. But Victor, in an unexpected turn, blocked her path. "No," he said. His face showed a complex mix of emotions: embarrassment at how the evening had begun, lingering shock at what he'd witnessed, and something else that might have been respect. "You can't just walk away after that." Professor Rivera looked increasingly confused. "Would someone please explain what's happening?" "We asked Anna to sing," Victor said, carefully omitting the circumstances that had led to the request. "And she sang. She has the voice of an angel," added the flute player with the braids. "No, better than that. Angels would weep hearing her sing." Rivera's expression remained skeptical, but she gestured toward Anna. "Well then, let's hear it." Anna clutched the microphone tighter, feeling trapped once again. But something had changed inside her. The song had awakened something that had been dormant for too long. Despite her fear, she found herself nodding slowly. "The same song?" she asked the group quietly. "Yes," several voices answered at once. Anna took a deep breath and closed her eyes again. The second time through, the opening notes came more easily. She didn't need to search for the courage to begin. It was already there, waiting. Her voice filled the room once more, and this time she was aware of her audience, aware of the power she held over them through nothing more than the gift she had been born with, and the emotion she poured into each note. Professor Rivera's reaction was immediate and physical. Her hand flew to her throat, her eyes widened, and she took an involuntary step backward. In 30 years of teaching, of attending performances at the world's greatest opera houses, of working with prodigies and professionals alike, she had never heard such a combination of technical perfection and raw emotional authenticity. Anna sang the entire song, her confidence growing with each phrase. When she reached the final note, that pure, sustained tone that seemed to hang in the air like a tangible thing, Rivera was leaning against the wall for support, visibly moved. The silence that followed was profound. No one seemed to know what to say or do in the face of what they had just experienced. It was Rivera who finally broke the spell, stepping forward with purpose. "Anna," she said, her voice unusually gentle, "how long have you been cleaning at the academy?" 5 years, Anna replied softly. "And in all that time you've never mentioned that you can sing like that?" Anna shrugged slightly. No one ever asked. The simple response landed like a physical blow. Several students looked away, ashamed. Victor stared at his shoes. The truth of her words was undeniable. Not one of them, in all the times they had passed her in the hallways or watched her clean their classrooms, had ever thought to ask Ana Mendez about her own relationship with music. Rivera looked at Ana with new eyes, not seeing the cleaner's uniform or the practical shoes or the hands roughened by work, but seeing instead a woman with a gift that defied explanation. "Ana," Rivera said carefully, "would you be willing to come to my office tomorrow morning? I would like to talk to you." Ana hesitated, confusion crossing her face. "I work at the corner store during the day," she explained. "I can only come very early or late." "Early then," Rivera decided. 8 o'clock? Before your shift at the store?" Ana nodded slowly. "I can do that." An awkward silence fell over the room again. The party atmosphere had evaporated completely, replaced by a collective sense of having witnessed something transformative. No one quite knew how to proceed. It was Ana who made the decision for them, quietly setting down the microphone on a nearby table. "I should finish my work now," she said, her voice returning to its usual soft register. "It's getting late." As she walked toward the door, the students parted to let her through, watching her with new eyes. She was no longer invisible. She would never be invisible to them again. Back in the hallway, Ana leaned against the wall for a moment, her heart racing. What had just happened? What would happen tomorrow? The future suddenly seemed full of questions where before it had been entirely predictable. She pushed her cleaning cart forward, continuing her rounds. But as she worked for the first time in years, Ana Mendez allowed herself to sing quietly while she cleaned. Ana arrived at Westbrook Academy the next morning with her stomach in knots. She'd barely slept after her shift, her mind replaying what had happened in the student lounge over and over. The memory seemed almost dreamlike, standing in a circle of students singing her grandmother's song, seeing the shock on their faces, and then Professor Rivera asking to meet with her. She told her mother nothing about it. What was there to tell? That for one strange moment she'd stepped out of the shadows? That people had looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in years? It would lead to nothing. It had to lead to nothing. Her life was what it was, caring for her mother, working her 2 jobs, surviving one day at a time. The academy felt different in the morning light. Quieter, more formal. Anna had only been here during daytime hours for her job interview 5 years ago. She felt out of place in her faded jeans and simple blue sweater instead of her cleaning uniform. Professor Rivera's office door was open. Anna stood in the doorway, hesitant to enter this unfamiliar territory. The vocal instructor was seated at her desk, writing something in a notebook. She looked up and smiled, a genuine smile that Anna had never seen directed at her before. "Anna, come in, please." Anna stepped inside, her hands fidgeting nervously with the strap of her worn purse. "Good morning, Professor. Please sit down." Rivera gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Would you like some tea? Coffee?" Anna shook her head. "No, thank you." Rivera studied her for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "I couldn't sleep last night," she finally said. "I kept hearing your voice in my head." Anna looked down at her hands, uncomfortable with the attention. "How long have you been singing?" Rivera asked. Anna shrugged slightly. "Always, I guess. My grandmother taught me songs when I was little. But no formal training? No lessons? No choir?" "I was in the school choir in middle school," Anna replied. "But my father—" She trailed off, not wanting to explain how his dismissal had closed that door. Rivera nodded as if she understood anyway. "Anna, what happened last night was extraordinary. I've been teaching for 30 years and I've never heard a natural talent like yours." Anna shook her head. "I just sang a simple song." "No," Rivera said firmly. "What you did was far from simple. You have a gift, a rare and precious gift, and I believe it deserves to be developed." Anna looked up, confused. "What do you mean?" "I want to work with you," Rivera said, leaning forward. "I want to teach you, to help you develop your voice." For a moment, Anna couldn't speak. The offer was so unexpected, so completely outside the realm of possibility in the life she had built that she couldn't process it. I can't," she finally managed. "I have my jobs. My mother is sick. I take care of her." Rivera nodded. "I understand. But perhaps we could find a way. There are scholarships, programs." She paused, studying Anna's face. "At the very least, would you allow me to give you some lessons? We could work around your schedule. Early mornings like today. Late evenings after your cleaning shift." Anna's heart raced at the thought, singing again properly, learning from someone like Professor Rivera, whose reputation in the music world was legendary. It was a dream she had never allowed herself to have. "And," Rivera continued, "I'd like to offer you a position as my assistant in the music department. It would be part-time to start, mainly administrative work, organizing sheet music, helping with the music library, assisting during lessons. It pays better than the cleaning position and the hours could be more flexible." Anna stared at her in disbelief. "But why? Why would you do this?" Rivera's expression softened. "Because talent like yours comes along once in a lifetime, if at all. And because I've walked past you for 5 years without seeing you, and I need to make that right." Anna left Professor Rivera's office an hour later with her head spinning. She had agreed to think about the offer. Rivera had given her a week to decide, understanding that Anna needed to figure out how such a dramatic change might work with her responsibilities at home. As Anna walked through the academy halls toward the exit, she noticed something strange. Students who had never looked her way before now met her eyes. Some nodded. Others smiled. A few even stopped to speak to her. "That song was beautiful," said a boy who played the viola. "My grandmother is from Mexico, too. Your voice reminded me of home." "Will you be at the showcase next month?" asked a girl from the piano department. "You should perform. You'd bring the house down." Anna murmured polite responses, overwhelmed by the attention. By the time she reached the main entrance, she felt as if she'd stepped into someone else's life. Outside, she nearly collided with Victor, who was just arriving for his morning classes. He stopped abruptly when he saw her, an uncomfortable expression crossing his face. "Anna," he said, his usual confidence nowhere to be seen. "I've been looking for you." Anna waited, unsure what to expect. Victor shifted his weight from one foot to the other. "I wanted to apologize for last night. What I did it was cruel and stupid." The apology surprised her. Anna had expected many things from the privileged young man who had tried to humiliate her. Indifference, perhaps, or awkwardness, or even continued mockery. but not this seemingly genuine remorse. "It's all right," she said quietly. "No, it's not." Victor shook his head. "I treated you like you were nothing, like you were invisible. And then you sang and I realized I've never been so wrong about anyone in my life." Anna didn't know how to respond. The world had tilted on its axis and she was still trying to find her balance. "Professor Rivera told me to come see her this afternoon," Victor continued. "I think I'm in pretty serious trouble, but I deserve it." "I didn't report you," Anna said quickly. "I know. Zoe and Nathan did. And they were right to." He looked at her directly now. "I'm truly sorry, Anna," she nodded, accepting his apology. "I need to go. I have my other job soon." Victor stepped aside to let her pass, but called after her. "Will you take Rivera's offer?" "The lessons?" Anna turned back. "How do you know about that?" "Rivera called me first thing this morning. Said she wanted me to understand the consequences of my actions, that I'd nearly caused a voice like yours to remain undiscovered." He shook his head slightly. "She's making me help organize the scholarship paperwork as part of my punishment. But honestly, after hearing you sing, it doesn't feel like punishment at all." The corner store was quiet that afternoon. Anna stocked shelves mechanically, her mind elsewhere. The events of the past 24 hours kept replaying in her head. Singing in the student lounge, the meeting with Rivera, Victor's apology, the changed way people looked at her. "You okay, Anna?" asked Mr. Patel, the store owner. "You seem distracted today." Anna nodded. "Just tired." But it wasn't tiredness that had her so preoccupied. It was possibility. A concept that had been absent from her life for so long she hardly recognized it. That evening, when Anna returned home, she found her mother sitting up in bed, looking better than she had in weeks. Rosa from across the hall had brought over homemade chicken soup and fresh bread. "You look different," Carmen said, studying her daughter's face. "Did something happen?" Anna hesitated. For years, she had protected her mother from anything that might worry her, keeping her own dreams and disappointments private. But perhaps it was time for that to change too. "Something did happen, Mama," she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Something unexpected." She told her mother everything, the cruel joke that had turned into a moment of revelation, Rivera's offer, the possibility of a different kind of life. As she spoke, she watched her mother's expression transform from concern to wonder. "My Anna," Carmen whispered when she had finished. "My beautiful girl, I always knew you had music in your soul." "It doesn't matter," Anna said quickly. "I can't do it. I have you to take care of, the bills to pay." "Stop." Carmen reached out to take her daughter's hand. "You have put your life on hold for me for too long. This is a gift, a second chance. You cannot turn it away. But how would we manage? The medical bills, the rent? We will find a way," Carmen said with surprising firmness. "Rosa would help more. Perhaps I could move in with my sister in Arizona. Her climate would be better for my lungs anyway." "I won't send you away," Anna protested. "It wouldn't be sending me away. It would be letting both of us live the lives we should." Carmen's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Anna, when your father made you give up singing, I said nothing. It has been my greatest regret. I will not be silent again while you sacrifice your gift." Anna looked at her mother, seeing not the frail woman who needed her care, but the strong woman who had raised her, who had worked 3 jobs after Anna's father left, who had taught her that dignity mattered more than circumstances. "Think about it," Carmen urged. "Promise me you will truly consider it." "I promise," Anna whispered. Later that night, after her mother had fallen asleep, Anna stood by the window of their small apartment, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there was Westbrook Academy, where for 5 years she had been nothing but a shadow moving through other people's dreams. Now, suddenly she had her own dream again, unexpected, frightening, possibly impossible. But it existed. After decades of silence, her voice had been heard. The question that kept her awake until dawn was simple but profound. What would she do with that voice now? 6 months could change everything. Ana Mendez knew this better than anyone as she stood backstage at Westbrook Academy's Grand Concert Hall, waiting for her name to be called. Her hands trembled slightly as she smoothed down the simple but elegant blue dress Professor Rivera had helped her choose for tonight's performance. "Nervous?" Rivera asked, appearing beside her with a reassuring smile. Ana nodded. "Terrified," she admitted. Good, Rivera said. The day you stop feeling nervous before performing is the day your music loses its soul. Anna took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. If someone had told her 6 months ago that she would be performing as a featured soloist at the Academy's showcase concert, she would have thought they were crazy. Yet here she was, about to step onto the stage not as the woman who cleaned the halls, but as a vocalist, whose talent had become the talk of the Academy. The journey to this moment had not been easy. After that life-changing night in the student lounge, Anna had accepted Rivera's offer with both hope and fear battling in her heart. The first few weeks had been the hardest, juggling voice lessons with her job at the corner store, learning to read music formally for the first time, adjusting to being seen and acknowledged in the Academy halls, all while caring for her mother and worrying about their financial situation. But slowly, piece by piece, a new life had taken shape. Rivera had been true to her word, creating a position for Anna as her assistant in the music department. The work was less physically demanding than cleaning, the hours more flexible, and the pay better. Anna had been able to reduce her hours at the corner store, giving her more time for her lessons and for her mother. Carmen had improved too, partly due to new medication that Rivera had helped arrange through the Academy's health insurance program that now covered Anna, and partly due to the joy of seeing her daughter's transformation. She still needed oxygen and regular care, but there was a new light in her eyes as she listened to Anna practice at home each evening. 2 minutes, the stage manager whispered, passing by with a clipboard. Anna nodded, her throat suddenly dry. She closed her eyes, thinking of how far she had come, the technical skills Rivera had helped her develop, the repertoire she had built, the confidence she had gained. But more than anything, she thought of the walls that had come down inside her, the barriers she had built over decades to protect herself from hoping for more than survival. Anna. She opened her eyes to see Victor standing a few feet away. Their relationship had evolved into something neither of them could have predicted. His genuine remorse over how he had treated her had led to a determined effort to make amends. As part of his punishment from Rivera, he had been assigned to help Anna with music theory and repertoire selection. Initial awkwardness had gradually given way to mutual respect, and eventually to friendship. "You're going to be amazing," he said, offering a supportive smile. "Just like in rehearsal yesterday." "I keep thinking I'll forget the words," Anna confessed. "You won't," Victor assured her. "And even if you did, it wouldn't matter. Your voice alone would be enough." The humility in his tone was still new, still being tested, but it was real. The arrogant boy who had tried to humiliate her was learning, growing, becoming someone better. Anna liked to think she had played some small part in that transformation. And now came the announcement from the stage. Westbrook Academy is proud to present a special performance by Ana Mendez, accompanied by Victor Harrington on piano. A ripple of anticipation moved through the audience. Anna's story had spread throughout the Academy and beyond. Many had come tonight specifically to hear the cleaning woman with the extraordinary voice. "That's us," Victor said, moving toward the stage. Anna took one more deep breath and followed. As she stepped into the spotlight, she scanned the audience. In the front row sat her mother in her wheelchair, oxygen tank beside her, beaming with pride. Next to her was Rosa, who had become like family over these past months. Behind them were Zoe and Nathan, who had become Anna's champions among the student body. And scattered throughout the hall were dozens of familiar faces, students and faculty who had passed her in the corridors for years without seeing her, who now greeted her by name in the hallways. Victor took his place at the grand piano. They had chosen a piece together, a classical arrangement of the folk song Anna's grandmother had taught her, the same one she had sung that night in the student lounge. Rivera had helped Anna adapt it, preserving its emotional core while showcasing the full range and power of her voice. Anna nodded to Victor, who began to play the gentle introduction. When she began to sing, the hall fell completely silent. Every eye was on her, every ear tuned to the voice that rose and fell like a tide, carrying the audience away on waves of pure emotion. Anna no longer closed her eyes when she sang. She had learned to look out at her audience, to share her gift directly with them. Tonight, as her voice filled the concert hall, she saw tears on many faces. She understood now what Rivera had tried to tell her from the beginning, that her voice was not just technically remarkable, but had a rare ability to touch people's hearts. As the song built to its climax, Anna felt a sense of completion, as if the scattered pieces of her life had finally come together. The cleaning woman, the caretaker daughter, the hidden singer, all these were part of who she was. But they no longer defined her limits. The final note hung in the air, pure and perfect. When it faded, there was a moment of absolute silence. Then the audience erupted. People rose to their feet, applause thundering through the hall. Anna's mother wiped tears from her eyes, her face glowing with pride. Anna and Victor took their bows, his hand supportive at her elbow. As they walked off stage to continued applause, Rivera was waiting for them, her eyes bright. "That," she said simply, "is why I've been teaching for 30 years. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. After the showcase ended, Anna found herself surrounded by well-wishers. Several people handed her business cards: a local theater director, the conductor of a community orchestra, a voice teacher from another school interested in collaborative work. "Ms. Mendez," called a voice as the crowd thinned. Anna turned to see the academy's director, Dr. Chen, approaching with an older couple. "I'd like you to meet Mr. and Mrs. Blackwood, two of our most generous donors." Anna shook their hands, still getting used to being treated as a colleague rather than service staff. "We were deeply moved by your performance," Mrs. Blackwood said, "and by your story. Thomas and I have been discussing something with Dr. Chen," her husband added. "We'd like to establish a scholarship fund for talented musicians from underprivileged backgrounds, people who might otherwise never have the opportunity to develop their gifts. We'd like to call it the Ana Mendez Scholarship Fund, if you would permit us." Anna stared at them in disbelief. I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Rivera urged, appearing at her side. "Think of how many others there might be out there, people with gifts like yours who just need a chance." Anna thought of all the invisible people in the world, the cleaners, the servers, the caregivers, the workers who moved through life unnoticed but whose hearts held dreams and talents, just waiting to be discovered. She thought of her younger self, of the little girl whose father had laughed at her desire to sing, of the woman who had hidden her voice for so many years. "Yes," she said firmly, "I would be honored." Later that night, Anna wheeled her mother out of the concert hall into the cool evening air. Carmen reached up to squeeze her daughter's hand. "Your grandmother would have been so proud," she said softly. Anna nodded, too full of emotion to speak. "What happens now?" Carmen asked. Anna looked up at the stars, bright and clear above them. 6 months ago, that question would have terrified her. The future had been nothing but worry and uncertainty, a relentless struggle to survive one day at a time. Now it held possibilities she was just beginning to imagine. "I'm not sure," she admitted, "but I think it will be beautiful." As they made their way home, Anna hummed quietly to herself. No longer the invisible woman cleaning empty halls after hours, she now walked in the light, her voice free, her spirit soaring. The woman who had once been mocked now used that same voice not just to create beauty, but to create change, opening doors for others that had once been closed to her. And in the night sky above them, Anna could almost hear her grandmother's voice joining her own. 2 generations of women whose songs could no longer be silenced.